For 42 years, he's kept watch over the heartland.
But we'll have some showers and some thunderstorms too.
I'm gonna miss everything. I've never known KFVS without Bob.
Now, we honor Bob Reeves.
One of those guys that you're just proud decided to work for us.
The calm in the storm.
Bob Reeves is the most recognizable man in the heartland. He helps you plan your day and keeps your family safe. You know Bob, you trust Bob, even if you've never actually met Bob. For the next half hour, we're going to tell you what you don't know about the man you invite into your living room every night. This is the story of Bob Reeves, the calm in the storm. Bob was born and raised in Southern Illinois.
My mom was a school teacher. My dad sold life insurance and other sorts as well. Grew up in a small town, El Dorado, not the tiniest of towns. It was about 4,000 people or so. An idyllic situation.
From an early age, Bob wanted to know the news of the day.
I was a news and radio geek as a little kid. I know we took 5 newspapers at our house. Everybody watched the news, everybody listened to the news. It was a big deal. And it was kind of appointment television for my grandparents, for us at our house, and I just kind of grew into it out of that.
In fact, the only part of the news that didn't fascinate Bob was the weather.
In high school, I decided I really want to work in broadcasting, and I didn't care much whether it was TV or radio. I had no interest in weather at that point. It was broadcasting. I loved speech, I loved theater, I loved everything.
After graduating from El Dorado High School, Bob enrolled at Southern Illinois University in Carbondale to study television and radio. It was at SIU that Bob met Beverly Ann Miller.
And this guy came riding up on a bicycle. And I met him that day. We became really good friends and just kind of went from there.
Bob and Beverly were married in 1968. While Bob was finishing his degree, Beverly taught first grade.
Well, I think my favorite part was making do with what you had. The first Thanksgiving we had 2 chairs. So we used suitcases for some of the people that came. Of course, grandmother had her wheelchair, so she was a real welcome guest.
In 1970, while taking graduate classes, Bob got a lead on a television job, thanks to a visit from Mr. KFVS himself.
I got my interview at KFVS because Don McNeely came to SIU recruiting somebody. I sent a resume. Within 3 days they called me and I came down and interviewed. Mr. Hirsch hired me that day.
And the proud citizens of this all-American city can be equally proud of Cape Girardeau's first skyscraper.
I was really impressed with the size of the studio. I mean, it was a huge television studio. The staff was pretty small.
With just 4 news people total, KFVS-12 produced 4 newscasts each day. Mr. Oscar Hirsch, the founder of KFVS-12, believed in doing more with less.
All of us produced our own newscasts with far less technology and far fewer elements.
He went to work about 10:30 or 11 in the morning, got off about 11 o'clock at night. He worked 6 days a week.
It was interesting, it was thrilling, and we do it on the fly every day.
There was really only one part of the job that Bob wasn't excited about.
Don said, by the way, you will need to do the weather at 10 o'clock at night. And I said, what? I guess I knew that, but I was kind of putting that, you know, there's no script. I didn't know anything. I'd had a couple of classes in weather, but I certainly didn't know anything about it. So he said, well, I've got some books, go over to the library, bone up a little bit. So I did. My first weathercast would have just been awful, as well as the news too. I'm grateful there's no videotape of it.
By now you might be doing the math in your head. Bob Reeves was hired in 1970. This is 2014. That's 44 years, so why are we only celebrating 42 years at KFVS-12? Well, it's simple. At the end of 1972, Bob left KFVS-12.
We really wanted to do something involving mission work.
Religion, church was always a big part of our lives. That was a common bond we had early on. And as long as I can remember, I wanted to be a missionary.
After taking seminary classes, Bob and Beverly were sent as missionaries to Trinidad and Tobago to develop a radio and production studio for English-speaking Baptists of the Caribbean. Bob's departure left a hole at KFVS-12 that would soon be filled by a young radio announcer from Sikeston.
The weather, clear to partly cloudy through tomorrow and mild, with high temperatures today reaching the mid-60s.
Well, it's interesting, Bob and his wife Bev left to become missionaries. And I got Bob's job.
He came in on Saturday after I left on a Friday in December of 1972.
While in the Caribbean, Bob functioned as the church pastor. This offered a chance for Bob and Bev to grow their faith, their family, and their relationship.
To a large degree, made us grow up together. Beyond that, we met wonderful people. The radio production studio didn't happen.
Despite setbacks, Bob and Beverly planned to continue their mission, but when Beverly fell ill, they were forced to return to the United States.
We are a very lucky people living in the country we are. But people are the same wherever. They're lovely, they're kind, you treat them well, they'll treat you well.
Back in the heartland, Bob was quickly rehired at KFVS-12. Once again, Bob was doing a little bit of everything in the newsroom.
There's a possibility that $237 million coal gasification facility at New Athens may be delayed 2 years or eliminated entirely.
Well, Mr. Hirsch referred to weekends as those weekend vacations. He didn't approve of them. So generally, you work 6 days a week.
You did news, you did weather, you did sports, and if you were on, you did the farm reports.
But it was his weathercast that people seemed to remember.
Some people would see me or recognize me. They'd refer to me as, "It's Bob the weatherman." Well, I was doing the news too. I was doing the sports poorly.
In 1979, Oscar Hirsch sold KFVS-12 to Aflac. Under Aflac, Bob was promoted to a news management position.
I went off the air to essentially determine and execute the news gathering of the day for the news department, and I did that for 3 years.
5 minutes until airtime. Assignment editor Reeves enters the electronic news center to queue up videotape and align all live transmissions that will be used during this particular newscast.
He was an anchor, a reporter, a photographer, a producer, a writer. He ran the assignment desk, he ran the newsroom.
He didn't have a job here that he didn't do well, and he's had every job in the news department.
It was in 1982 that Bob returned to the air full-time as the weather and ag reporter for The Breakfast Show, eventually earning a meteorology degree through a correspondence course from Mississippi State.
KFVS-TV Cape Girardeau, serving America's heartland. Jim Burns. And weather and agricultural news with Bob Reeves.
So my position became kind of a hybrid of doing the weather for The Breakfast Show and noon, and doing a farm report in addition to that. It was kind of fun.
Analysts say foreign currencies and metals were very strong, which helped soybeans and grains on the...
Bob has always been like a big brother to me, a mentor, and a dear friend. We worked together very closely back in the mid-'80s.
It was fun.
Back in those early days, we had a little game we'd play with Bob. Before every breakfast show, we'd give him some obscure word.
We would give Bob a certain word to make sure to mix into his forecast.
And he'd fit it into the newscast somehow, some way.
And some of those words were out of nowhere.
Like Memphis.
Soybean.
He would do it.
Boy, you know, he did it almost every time.
It was fun, it was silly, it was geeky, but, you know, that's who we were.
Okay, well, make note of this. It was, it was on this date in 1908 that Henry...
They were like two clowns in the middle of the night, always going at one another jokingly and everything, and I didn't know what to think.
And we just had a great time doing it. We just had a chemistry that worked. And those are some of the most enjoyable years of my professional careers.
And I've never enjoyed working with anyone else more than I enjoyed working with Jim. True professional. Did we fight? Of course. Did we get along? Tremendously well.
While Bob was happy working the morning shift, fate had other plans. Don McNeely, the 50-year broadcasting legend, Mr. KFVS, perhaps the most popular local weatherman in the entire country, announced plans to hang up his microphone for good in 1993. And that boy from El Dorado, who never wanted to be a weatherman in the first place, was asked, no, make that told, to fill his shoes.
Well, that was decided, as they say, at a higher pay grade than mine. I didn't really want to leave the breakfast show because the breakfast show was a solid #1. It was fun working with Jim. Life was great.
And so it came to pass. Bob said goodbye to Jim Burns and the breakfast show, never missing a beat.
I, for one, would just like to say that I will miss this broadcast because no one is better to work with than Jim Burns has been and the entire morning crew. It's been a lot of fun, and I'll miss that.
We'll miss you too. Thanks for 11 years.
Well, it's been a lot of fun. Seems like 16.
Yeah, something like that.
But behind the smile, there was real fear.
I thought, I don't want to follow Don McNeely. He's #1 in the market. He's the most recognized person in the market. He's been here since time before there was KFVS-TV and there was only KFVS radio. And if the numbers go down, what's different? It's Bob.
Bob's first test came immediately.
July of 1993, when I started nights and Don retired, the flood of '93 happened.
This is a Heartland News special report.
Miller City residents are evacuating their homes.
And we did cut-ins overnight. We did special reports throughout the daytime on the flooding ongoing.
KFVS-12's ratings during the flood of '93 were the highest in station history.
The man who can step in to Don McNeely's shoes, well, Bob filled them perfectly.
One word I would always use in relation to Bob and his work, and that is dependable. Rock solid dependable. And especially is that true of severe weather.
It soon became clear that Bob was at his best when Mother Nature was dishing out her worst.
This is the tornado watch that is in effect. I don't think it's a time to have fun. I think it's a time to give the information as quickly as you can to the people who need it.
He likes to say that, you know, weather's not really his thing, that he just kind of pretends, but I mean, the guy knows it.
When you're going on the fly and you're trying to use a radar and track a storm and then read something that just comes in from the Weather Service, an update about a tornado, and then you're running over to the green wall, amazingly smooth, amazingly calm. And it's a talent that I think is underappreciated.
That is obviously a very intense storm that is pushing toward the northeast. Well, you have to just take a deep breath. And you have to say, okay, pause for a moment. Now, here's the next thing you need to know.
For 42 years, Bob has been that calm in the storm. He's the man with the soothing voice who helps you remember to pack your umbrella and let you know when it's time to head to the basement. To his fellow KFVS-12 employees, he's that and so much more.
I knew a lot about weather, but I knew almost nothing about TV weather and how to be a TV weatherman rather than, you know, a meteorologist. And he was really one of the most important mentors that I had.
We had a lot of places where the show could have just tanked, but Bob always had my back.
I had only worked at KFVS for 2 months when a tornado blew through, and it was a long day for everybody. I remember standing at the back door was Bob Reeves at the end of a very long day when all of us came in from reporting, and the first thing he said was, "Are you okay?" And then he patted us on the back and said, "Thank you."
He would go out of his way to say hi to me, to tell me that he liked my story, that I was doing a great job.
He had that special ability to say, "You really did a great job." Maybe even if you didn't, but Bob had that ability to make you feel really good.
What you see on the air is what you get off the air too. Bob's just a solid individual.
I think the good Lord probably has a special mold which he makes few really, really nice people. Bob's one of them. I won't say they broke the mold, but I hope they make more like him.
Coming up, the lighter side of being the weatherman. Then spend some time with Bob at home. And later, we say farewell.
And I'm going to miss the fun we have together because we like to kid around with each other and we like to give each other a hard time.
What I like about Bob is he can make fun of himself. He doesn't take it all so seriously.
Bob, what's it like outside tonight?
Well, right now, it's dark. No, I'm serious.
Some of my fondest memories of Bob were shooting promos with him.
Whether it be the old Harlem Globetrotters basketball promo we did back in the early 2000s, or especially the Bob in a Box. Watching him stand stiff as a board be carried across the screen for that promo was classic.
Everything that makes KFVS-12 great, now available online, KFVS12.com.
There's a chance of rain in your forecast. The weather where you...
Are you ready? Heartland Football Friday kicks off August 24th on KFVS-12.
Spend less time worrying and more time enjoying fall. Hay rides, harvest moons.
Weather where you live.
Hey, I'm not finished.
Sorry.
Caramel apples, raking leaves into the neighbor's yard.
First, there was Don McNeely. Then, there was Bob Reeves. Now, for only the third time in station history, a new person will lead the Storm team. No pressure, Grant.
When I first met Grant, I thought, this is a guy I'd like to work with. This is a guy who knows what he's doing. He's a guy who's fun to be around, but he's a guy who knows how to take seriously what the job is.
The biggest challenge, of course, is that I am trying to fill into the shoes of a legend. Bob is a legend in the Heartland. And to be honest, it's quite intimidating. I'm thrilled to have that opportunity, and I've worked with Bob for a few weeks now, and I can tell you that he's probably one of the nicest guys I've ever worked with in my life.
He is extremely thorough, extremely thoughtful, and quite insightful.
I have always been passionate about weather. I took a different route to get here, let's say. Out of college, I actually entered the restaurant industry and was a general manager for many different chains for about 15 years before I went back to school to study meteorology. My biggest hobby is weather. I'm always watching the weather, I'm always monitoring weather. After that, of course, I like to fish and I like to cook. And I would say probably over weather and everything is spending time with my family, but I'm always having a radar available, a satellite available. It's always on right next to me. My wife understands that, and so does my daughter.
Enjoy the ride. It's a great place to live, it's a great place to work, and it's a great place to enjoy the weather.
Sometimes it's hard for us to realize that Bob has a family outside of KFVS, a wonderful family who has shared Bob with us for 42 years.
Well, we have one son, Brian, who married a wonderful girl. Sharon gave us the daughter we always wanted. And we have 4 beautiful grandchildren. Corinne, 17, Evan, 15, Caroline, 9, and Rachel, 6. Complete joy.
Analysts say foreign currencies and metals were very strong.
Brian admits he didn't always understand how television worked.
All of my life, he has been on TV. And as a kid, I remember thinking, how does he get so small and get inside the TV and then get to life size later? That didn't make any sense because we had a 12-inch black and white TV set at home.
Life as the wife of a TV weatherman wasn't always easy.
The hours were long, of course, and the schedules have always been a little different. He went to work about 10:30 or 11 in the morning, got off about 11 o'clock at night. He worked 6 days a week, and that first year we had Brian. And it was a little difficult, but our life schedule has always been a little different. But we just adjusted and made it what it is. Sometimes our mornings were our evenings, sometimes our afternoons were our evening. Just, whatever, it works.
You want to know when it's going to hit where you live.
And if your dad is the most recognizable man in the Heartland, you don't always want him around.
When I was a little kid, I thought that was awesome. In high school, I never wanted him to go to any of my high school activities because everyone would be like, your dad's on TV, that's your dad. And I was like, no, don't show up, Dad. I don't want you there. Don't come to the basketball game. So you kind of go through all of it.
But don't let him fool you. There are also some pretty big perks.
I remember him doing reporting. In fact, I remember going to the Apple Festival with him as probably a 4 or 5 year old at Murfreesboro, Illinois one time. And I really liked it because I got lots of free candy.
As Brian got older, he got to do more fun things with his dad.
In fact, when I was probably a freshman in college, he was just finishing up working on The Breakfast Show. And he and I got tickets kind of at the last minute to go see Sinatra at the Fox Theater. We went up, saw the concert. We got back about 1 in the morning, and he went directly, he dropped me off at the house and went directly into The Breakfast Show at that point that night. So I don't know how the broadcast was that day, but the concert was awesome.
Brian, now a school teacher in Farmington, says having Bob as his father made him the person he is today.
Dad has always, he was very interested throughout his whole life in making sure that, not only that I knew stuff, academically, but he was also very interested in making sure that I knew what it was to be a good man and a good person. And how he treats my mother throughout the years, and what kind of a father he's been, what kind of a husband he's been, I think embodies kind of what the best of what teaching can be. Because he's always been a stand-up guy in every sense of the word.
He's always been a very kind and thoughtful and caring person. And I would think that he probably has been that way with the people he worked with too. Not just with me because I'm his brother, but he just has that point of view, I guess you could say, or relationship with other people.
He's kind. He's fair. Everybody says, they'll come up to me and they say, do you really realize how great a guy he is? And I'll say, yeah, I think I do. But I'm glad you all realize it too. He's thoughtful. I've had a lot of ups and downs health-wise, and he's always been there, always.
Now Bob and Bev are looking forward to spending more time together, enjoying their hobbies, and getting more time with their family.
We love to go antiquing, and as we've lost our parents, we've brought in more things, and we love to look for radios and cameras.
Here's another neat little radio that was featured as styled as a train case.
Yeah, and I think it'd be fun to travel too and not be restricted to a certain schedule, and we can do it at our own pace.
Just enjoy it. Don't feel like you're missing something.
Both Bob and Bev say they're also looking forward to making it through stormy nights together.
You get a lot of people always come up to him and thank him and say thank you for being with me through the storms, and I understand what they mean, because I sit there right by the TV and he goes with me through the storms. Although I must tell you, I'm looking forward to him sitting beside me at home.
I'm looking forward to hearing thunder and saying, nah, I don't care. I'm going to stay here with Bev. I'll turn on KFVS-12 and see if it's something I need to worry about or not.
And they both want you to know they appreciate your words of kindness as they move into their next stage of life.
All the wonderful emails, Facebook, cards, and letters, people of all ages that have taken time to say thank you. And that has meant a lot to him and to me too.
There you are. Thank you.
I'm overwhelmed by the kindness of people. People I've never met from all parts of the heartland. I deeply, deeply appreciate that, because if it hadn't been for those folks, I wouldn't be here.
I would tell everybody, if you never had the opportunity to meet him, he's everything you hoped he'd be. He's kind, he's funny, he's self-deprecating.
That Bob is like a bit of a father figure for me here at the station.
I'm lucky enough to not only work here, but to say, this is my friend.
That he's a real good guy, genuine, cares about everybody.
He is a true gentleman. I can't say there are many men that seem to be like him that are out there.
It's almost like he stepped out of the 40s or the 50s.
Always who he is on the air is who he is off the air.
And he never makes you feel like you're interrupting or that you're unwelcome. He's always so approachable, and what a wonderful characteristic to have.
I've learned most of what I know about severe weather coverage from Bob.
To me, he just tells a story when he tells the weather. I can't explain it, but I always thought, what a great communicator he is.
When I think about Bob, I think of a man who has never forgotten a lesson he learned from probably first grade through college.
He's always been right there at the meetings, He's always been an early adapter for the new technology, of which there's a lot.
He's one of the smartest people I know.
But if I need to know how to say something, I turn right to him.
Now that I think about it, I always ask Bob questions. I don't think he ever asked me any question.
I hate to see Bob retire for two reasons. Number one, the Heartland's going to lose one of the most respected on-air talents in the entire country. And number two, I think when Bob leaves, I'm going to be the oldest guy in the news department.
And I'm going to miss seeing him. Working with him for 31 years around here, it's going to be hard to come in here and not see Bob.
We're going to march forward, but it won't be the same. Bob's a hell of a guy.
Yeah, I'm going to miss Bob. I'm going to miss his sense of humor and his humanity. I mean, he's such a nice guy.
I'm gonna miss everything. I've never known KFVS without Bob, and so it's kind of scary, and it makes me kind of start to tear up because he's been such a great mentor. And to walk into the Storm Team Center and have him not be here, it's kind of sad.
Our KFVS, I hate to see it. I know he needs to retire. He should retire, but I feel sorry for all the rest of us left behind.
He's just one of those guys that you're just proud decided to work for us.
Well, it's not always accurate. I was the one who gave the forecast the night that I said we'll have snow flurries, and we got 24 inches of wind-driven snow.
There's a feeling of excitement in Union County you can't find anywhere but America's Heartland. At KFVS-12, we're proud to serve you.
Well, Bob has a pretty bad gambling problem. A lot of people don't know about that. He likes to bet the ponies.
And listen, if it took a shot of whiskey to get on and talk about the bad weather, I didn't blame Bob for that. It's a tough job.
That's correct. At Town and Country Mart, you've got savings in the bag.
King Cotton smoked sausage, just $1.29 a pound. Nabisco snack crackers, $1.69. Cool Whip, only 99 cents. Duracell batteries.